G'day, Aussie Gridiron fans, and welcome to Week 2 preview show. 6 huge games to preview tonight, and a bit of news, so let's get down to it. G'day guys, how are we? Everybody is in the house for G'day Gridiron this evening. Brad, how you going out there, Big Daddy B?
Hey, you know what? I am living the dream. Looking forward to week 2 of our vaunted NFL season. And if it's anything like week 1, boy, are we in for a treat.
Oh, fingers crossed it's like week 1. Nick, looking forward to week 2 as much as you were week 1?
Yes, across the board, like there was a lot of, as you expect, week 1, a lot of upsets, a lot of weird results. Teams doing better than we thought, teams doing worse than we thought. But yeah, week 2, we'll see if the Colts are like the Saints from last year. You know, they had the 2-game stretch and then they fell off. But yeah, interesting coming into week 2 and see what happens.
I'm hoping not, because I picked up Daniel Jones in a whole bunch of leagues. Hey, go on down there, Scuba Steve. We are underwater yet?
Well, I am underwater and coming to you from my floaty and my boat.
You would own a boat.
I'm looking forward to week 2 where there's no more lies. Everything in
No
week
more
2,
lies.
make sure that it happens throughout the season. So let's
No
get
more
down to it.
overreactions, no more lies. You got it.
We'll see. Week 2 sometimes can be a weird beast. So anyway, we have 6 huge games to preview tonight. We've got the 4 that we all want to watch, plus 2 massive Monday Night Football games. And thank you, NFL, for not overlapping those 2 Monday Night Football games.
Thank God.
They are back-to-back, which means we have a huge Tuesday here in Australia to watch football after a massive Monday. So it's we are back with a vengeance for the NFL. We've got a little bit of news to start off with, though. Some things that popped off over the week that was, some stuff from the weekend that was. So let's get into the news. Jalen Carter. We all saw what happened to Jalen Carter, or how much of a bonehead Jalen Carter was in the Eagles Cowboys match. Opening match, I should say. Jalen Carter gets technically suspended for a week for spitting on the chest of Dak Prescott. The NFL said that the act would have attracted a 1-week suspension, but classed week 1 as his suspension, as he didn't get to play a single snap, essentially because it was on the first snap of the game, after the first snap of the game. NFL also fined him basically his game check to ensure it was actually a week 1 suspension. Brad, does that seem like a warranted punishment for a boneheaded move?
Hell no. Ban him the whole season, dickwad. No, yeah. I mean, spitting is the lowest of the low, and this guy already had a reputation of being stupid and doing dumb stuff. So I wouldn't have minded another game suspend. I think, to me, they got to send a message, and even down to to the lower leagues, to college and high school. So I personally, I think if you spit, it should just be a flat out 3-game suspension. That's me. I'm a little old school on that, but there's no room for it, and they got to stamp that stuff out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally agree.
I think you watch it at the start, the incident, and you just see him spit, but I'm pretty sure Dak baited him into doing it, like with the spit towards the ground.
Yeah, he definitely
he's
did.
He did it
successfully
so
done
well.
it,
He did it so
and he
well.
done it really well. Like even when he spat
looked-
on him
he-
again, he looked at the ref like, "Come on, man." So he did his job there.
Definitely
So
looked at him, but Dak was smart enough to look down and spit at the ground.
yes, yeah,
You know, he might have needed to spit, but he definitely looked at him as he was walking
Yeah.
over and looked back and gave him a head nod. But
Yeah.
Still,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
if you're that much,
typical
are you
baiting.
really going to be that much of a bonehead though to spit back at somebody, but not just spit back, but be in their face
I,
and spit on them?
I know.
Yeah.
And
Because I
look,
guarantee
I
you,
don't condone
if
it,
he
what
would have
he did.
spat, if he would have spat on the ground, Carter,
Yeah.
okay, no big deal. Well, let's play.
No,
Game on. But when you spit on somebody, it's completely different.
100%.
Yeah. If he would have just looked at him face to face, chest to chest, and then turned his head sideways and spat next to him, would have been fine.
Yes. Yeah.
But again, bonehead.
You know what the funniest
all right.
part of all of this was? Is
What?
that actually 2
What?
days after, Florida had played South Florida
Yeah.
in college. I don't know if you heard about this, Brad, but there was an actual same incident that happened there as well. But I don't think there's been a
Yep.
suspension that's happened as of yet. So I'm wondering
No,
now, do
no.
they follow suit of going, okay, a game suspension, or how would that sort of work? Because I'm keen on what you said about trying to set the precedent. So I wonder how now the NCAA sort of goes about it.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I did hear about it, and that's part of the reason why I say you got to send a message to these guys, because whether they like it or not, these college players do look at that stuff and see, okay, well, if the NFL's doing it, I can do it. And it's just not always the case, but college, they don't have the maturity to realize that stuff. So yeah, you got to set an example anyway.
Right, in other news, 49ers news, in fact. George Kittle was placed on IR this week, giving the star tight end at least 4 weeks off from football to recover from a hamstring injury. They've got 4 games in the next 23 days, the last of which is set for Thursday night football. So that would be a short week. So I guess it made the decision to place Kittle on IR a little bit more academic. Kittle will miss games against the Saints, Cardinals, Jags, and Rams. Kittle being out is a pretty big deal, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, when we win, we lose. It's really how it works now. And you can never assume
That's going to go on a
finishes-
49ers t-shirt, surely.
when we finish the game, now we're not even safe after we finish a game. I'll wake up the next day, Purdy's going to be out, Kittle's going to be out. It's never ending. It's never ending. That's just how it's been, the last 6 or 7 years. So I don't know. I mean, like those sort of matchups, like you sort of worry because then, like we sort of know about Jennings, about like, is he going to play or something? At least Pearsall was pretty good, again in Seattle. So that was a good sign. But, yeah, there goes that Kittle bet that I had, at our preseason bets about over 900 yards. So that's gone out the window. So yeah.
Yeah, well, a few of mine went week 1 as well, mate, so I feel your pain. Brock Purdy is currently a long shot to be available to play against the Saints this week in New Orleans. Kyle Shanahan told reporters just today. Purdy is dealing with toe and left shoulder injuries, the former of which is of more concern right now. Asked whether Purdy might miss multiple games as he recovers, Shanahan wouldn't rule it out. So, Nick, I know Manjot is already pleased to hear this. This leaves Mac Jones to be the likely likely get his first regular season start for the Niners if Purdy is unavailable this week. But the Niners did also work out Mike White this week, looking to add another QB to the roster just in case.
Oh God, I was going to say I'm not sure how Manjot sits with this, but this for the people that are supporting of my Niners team would know about the theory behind Kyle Shanahan actually wanting to draft Mac Jones all those years ago. So it's finally happened here, and now he's finally got his player that he actually wanted at the start. So I don't know. I will see it with Mac Jones. I mean, theoretically, with McCaffrey against the Saints should be okay, but like after that O-line, from watching that on Monday, I had insane hives from watching that and how badly they blocked up front. Like that was shocking. And it's probably one of the worst games I've seen Trent Williams play in some time. And he was still solid. Like even through that game, he was still solid. But man, big trouble because Mac Jones can't move like Purdy can at least.
No. Well, it is hilarious to me, the Mac Jones thing, because not only did Kyle Shanahan originally want him, but Manjot has been known to go on huge Mac Jones rants So it was hilarious when he not only signed with the Niners, but now looks like getting regular season starts with the Niners. Could be multiple. He's up against
Could
the
be
Saints.
multiple, yeah.
He's up against the Saints this week, so it's very likely that he will have a half decent game for the Niners. The last bit of Niners news was, and this is something Manjot was screaming for during the Niners game over the weekend. Jake Moody was officially waived by the Niners on Tuesday after missing one kick and having another blocked against the Seahawks. Niners have signed veteran kicker Eddie Pinheiro to the active roster on a 1-year deal.
Thank
Manjot's
God Moody's
reactions-
gone. That's all I can say.
Manjot's game reactions are hilarious, and I suggest that anybody that wants to follow along with them, make sure you are following at Pastry Press NFL on Instagram on game days. Most of them are huge overreactions and swings in moods and temperaments, especially when the Niners game is on. So, speaking of everybody's favorite team, Cowboys All-Pro cornerback Deron Bland suffered a foot injury during practice on Monday that could result in him missing a couple of weeks, per Todd Archer at ESPN. Bland recently signed a 4-year, $92 million extension. Brad, another in a long series of players that have signed huge extensions only to get injured within 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really, really is. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, if it's kind of seems part and parcel that he's going to miss a couple weeks. And the Cowboys are already thin at cornerback, so this does not bode well. They got plenty of first round picks at cornerback, but many of them are that good. So we'll see. But if they miss him, it will be a major, major blow to that secondary, which is already reeling and not that good.
And in the final lot of Cowboys news, Cowboys are kicking the tires on a veteran pass rusher. Jadeveon Clowney had a visit with Dallas head coach Brian Schottenheimer this week. Speaking on the 2014 first overall pick, Schottenheimer said, "This is something we've been monitoring with every position. Again, I feel great about our defensive line depth, but anytime you have the chance to potentially add good football players, why wouldn't you kick the tires? I remember how disruptive he can be. He's really good against the run and the pass. He's a violent player that plays the game the right way."
Oh, mate. I don't know if that's the case, but the idea of, bringing in Grandpa Clowney doesn't exactly instill me with confidence. But the fact that he came to the Cowboys organization, met with everybody, and then left without a contract, it doesn't bode that well. So I don't put a ton, because usually when those things happen in season, and if they come and visit, they leave with a contract. They're not coming there just to kick the tires. They're coming there to cross the T's and dot the I's. And so it tells me that probably they couldn't come to an agreement. I think he would be serviceable and he would win. I mean, the dude had, over 5 sacks, over 40 tackles last season. His pressure rate was, I read earlier, that would put him a third on the Cowboys behind last year's Micah Parsons and Osa Odigizua. So
well done, Brad. You got it.
Yeah,
wow.
Well, every now and then, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So there's no doubt that he could help them, but I think it comes down to contract, and then also comes down to fit culturally. Like, is he going to be able to just kind of slide in and be one of the boys?
Yeah.
What do I know?
What do you know? You're just a jaded Cowboys fan who needs to find a gap year team.
I prefer to say a realist, but okay, I'll take jaded.
So, Brad's gap year is coming. So let's you got suggestions out there for a team Brad should follow in his gap year, in his sabbatical away from the Dallas Cowboys? The first time in how many years, Brad? Since when?
Well,
Give me a year.
I
Since
mean,
when?
Dallas is the only team I've ever rooted for, really. So
That's a lie. That's a lie. You're
That's a
telling
lie.
a blatant lie,
That is a
Brad. You
complete
told us
lie.
other things
you
before.
guys are dicks. You
Week
know
one
that?
lies.
You told
Week
us
one
you were a
lies.
Seahawks fan as a kid, mate. So that is a blatant lie.
No,
I have seen you in person multiple times when you were living down here in Adelaide in Seattle crap. I have
I've
seen
seen
it
him.
with my
I've seen him
own two
on this
eyes.
podcast. I have video evidence of you wearing a Seattle jacket.
Okay, wearing
Just
it
because you're from the Northwest, in the Pacific Northwest, that doesn't just mean all of a sudden, oh yeah, I wear it, but I don't root for them. Like that's not how this works.
No, mate. I mean, I'm from the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, and I have one set of gear. I mean, I would like to have a Baker Mayfield shirt, but I've got Vikings gear. Okay, so it's a big difference. Yes, Brad's gap year. Hit us up on the socials. Tell us, give us a good reason of why Brad should root for maybe the team that you root for, or if you've got ideas for someone else. You can find everything at linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. I will put that out. Honestly, I've been saying it for weeks, and I really need to get down and do it. So there will be a social post coming, and I'm sure every part of it, when we get on this podcast and start reading some of them out, will be absolutely hilarious. So please do hit us up, because, yeah, that's going to be a great time. All right, let's get on to some game previews for week 2, and because we've got like 6 to do, so we need to get through them as quickly as we possibly can. In amongst all these, if you aren't used to the new format that Brad and I sort of half did last week yet, there will be best bets for if we've got lines for any of these games within the games, and then after that, we will throw out some random lines that we like from the rest of the games in the week 2 slate of games. So let's get on to previews. How about we start with Isaac's game? Basically, I'm calling these for the games we want to watch. So we all go through and pick a game from the Sunday slate of games that we wanted to preview, and then we always do Monday Night Football. So Isaac's was Bears at Lions.
Yeah, so looking at the slate of games this week, I found this one to be the most intriguing this week due to not only the teams but the storylines within the game. So Ben Johnson returns to Ford Field where he was such a beloved coordinator. Both teams last week lost division round game. So they'll be looking to bounce back and get a division win over a division rival to sit them in better playoff standings. And then how do they respond to their week 1 losses? How do the Bears respond after looking dominant for 3 quarters and then losing the game to the Vikings in the 4th quarter? How are the Lions going to respond to being dominated by the Packers? Does Ben Johnson have any trick plays up his sleeve for his old side? Or will Dan Campbell have them looking to get tough on defense and the ground and pound game that was so interesting to watch and so successful last year? One thing I do want to see everyone do is go back and watch Tesla's touchdown from last week for the Lions. The catch there was just unbelievable. On the Tuesday show, Brad and I talked about the DeAndre Hopkins catch in the Ravens game. I think this one's a better catch for a touchdown. It was amazing. So,
yeah,
I think it definitely is an intriguing game. I worry a little bit. Both defenses gave up 27 points last week.
Yep.
And they both fell apart in the second half. So I don't necessarily. They played good in the first half. It fell apart in the second half. I would say they're gonna be slow to start off with. They're gonna pick it up, and it comes down to Caleb Williams and his legs, basically. If he can run with the ball, then they got a good chance at making something happen. But he had the highest percentage of throws off target. He had 23% of his throws were off target, which is the worst in the league. And now he's facing the NFL's most aggressive what you say, man blitz combination. So I think if he can stay disciplined and run the ball, then they could do good. If he lets it rip and tries to the Superman everything, I think that's a recipe for disaster.
I think this game we're going to find out a lot whether last year, whether Aaron Glenn was the tone setter or whether Dan Campbell is. Because if Dan Campbell's the tone setter, Detroit absolutely obliterate Chicago in this game. Like they come out, they might not look as, as much, as clean as what they, were last year offensively, but it will be just ground and pound, just a brutal beat up, both physically and just all over the park, like defensively, offensively. If it's Aaron Glenn, then there's alarm bells. Um, I'd be picking Detroit to be winning this by quite a considerable margin based on the fact that, we know what Dan Campbell is as a culture guy and, just the standard that they uphold themselves to and that they've built themselves on of just being that team that's, you're going to get punched in the mouth, then we're going to bite your kneecap off, like he said all those years ago.
Yeah.
For me, Chicago, I think you'll probably agree to this, Ian, like it was a Brian Flores second half a lot, and I think that really got into Caleb Williams. Like he was missing layups, like that one to I think it was Adunze, where he was renting land out there. There was so much space, and there was a few of those passes in the second half. So I'm really interested to see how they carry that through. And I think Ben Johnson's in a weird spot. Does he still try and work him in, keep with the simple stuff? Or does he let him just sort of create his own plays like I feel like he wanted to do in sort of that second half?
Yeah, Williams he looked amazing in the first half of last week's game. He was 10 for 10 at one stage, and he looked very poised and looked like he was in control. But you're right, Nick, it sort of fell apart in the second half, and I think you're right, that is largely to the Minnesota coaching and the way Brian Flores, who should be a head coach anywhere else in the league, but no one will let him anymore. So we're stupidly lucky to have him as a defensive coordinator. Can just scheme up and just change tactic and get his guys going completely differently in the second half and just destroy a game. And sort of help the offense, who were under a lot of pressure in the first half and kept making silly mistakes, just be able to get it together and put a lot of pressure back on the Bears. And that's what ended up happening. So, well, Brad, you sound like you got a line or two. What have you got? There's a drug reference.
Not that we endorse that. Thank you very much. Oh,
Brad's younger years.
Yeah.
What have you got for this game?
So I'm taking Caleb Williams on the rushing over. Just with that, he's got a 14% scramble rate. Detroit blitzes over 43% of the time. So I think you're going to see him outside the box making a lot of runs. I would also take Jared Goff on if you can get a bet on the over for passing attempts. I know that's probably a very American style bet, but I think that you're going to see a lot of dink and dunk from Goff. He did not throw downfield very much at all. So I think he's going to throw a lot of passes. And then the other one, I don't want to get too deep of a dive here, but I would take in the second half, the Lions team total. I'm taking the over because that Bears defense fell apart after halftime, and the Lions, I think, are going to be able to respond well after halftime. So those are my three.
Brad. Love that last one, Brad. That is deep. Have you got any for this one, Nick?
Two that I really liked in this game. The first quarter line is Detroit at -1.5. So pretty much, they're winning by 2 or more at the end of quarter time, which I think they probably will be. They'll come out strong. And the other one I sort of liked is the over, which is the total at total points for the over of 47.5. I think these two teams have played in like shootouts the last sort of few years. So I think it's only once that they haven't reached that 47.5 in their last 5 games. So yeah, I definitely expect that to be happening this week.
Yeah, we should just mention too, the line on this game is 5.5 to the Lions. So I like the Lions at that 5.5, to be honest. That's where I would probably lean.
I've got Isaac Tesla as a anytime touchdown scorer as well. He's
Oh.
paying $5.60. And he had a really
Wow.
good preseason, so I think he's going to start carving a bigger role out in this offense.
He had a
Nice.
great preseason, and if you can go back and, like you, Isaac, you said, go back and watch that touchdown catch.
Well, he had one
He
catch for the
had-
game, and that was the catch.
Yeah,
and it was a good one.
that was unreal.
Pretty good one.
Let's move on to the next game. Nick, the Super Bowl rematch. Eagles at Chiefs.
It is, yes. And both teams had sort of opposite ends of sort of how they finished last week. First off, in Philly, the Eagles were able to get over the line. They were a bit shaky. Defensively, they didn't look as good. Dak actually had a really good game. Like, he was able to get through, really good Eagles secondary quite well. There was a few drops from CeeDee Lamb, as Brad would probably know. And that could have changed the outcome of the game. Like,
Just
they
a
were
few.
definitely within that. And watching those last 5 minutes, like, going through, I was like, this is actually a game that the Cowboys could actually steal. Like, the rug would be pulled out from underneath Philly right here. So they somehow got over the line. Then the opposite happened in Brazil, where the Chargers finally got one up on the Chiefs after so long. I think it's the first time in a few years that they had actually beaten them, and it sort of felt like in that game, just nothing went right for the Chiefs. Like, that sort of juice that they had last year, and going, yep, they've got Mahomes, they've got Reed, they've got Kelsey, one score game, they'll get it done. Just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. It was actually a credit more so, I thought, to anything, that Justin Herbert was able to come in and, take the game by the scruff of the neck and actually end the game on his own terms, which was actually quite good for his sort of development as a player. So there's more so him more than anything, but there were some worrying signs, like, obviously, Worthy is out now. Obviously, Rice is still out. So the Chiefs, as they have been for a while, thin that receiver. But the last two games Mahomes has played against the Eagles, obviously he's lost both of them. So the only team that has consecutive wins over the Chiefs at the moment is the Eagles.
I think last week the Eagles showed that they're still the most dominant force right now in the NFL. But what I saw from the Chiefs was that Patrick Mahomes, basically, I know they lost that game, but that game was all Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
There was 2 sacks and 9 pressures on Mahomes alone. His offensive line played woefully. Kelsey took out his top receiver, which just killed the game for him. Also evidenced by the fact that I think he ran, 57 yards of the ground and got a touchdown. So he did it all himself. He was everywhere himself for everything he could possibly do, with not a lot of help anywhere else. And he was making those throws. He was making them possible. It was all Mahomes. And I expect if Mahomes steps up like that this week and they could figure out how to play or who can play, and who can still do something on that Chiefs offense, they might give the Eagles a little bit of their run for their money. But that Eagles defense is real, man, and I can see this being another heavy sort of sack and pressure rate game for Mahomes.
Yeah, I what intrigues me about this game is the Eagles offense versus that Chiefs pass defense, because the Chiefs got hammered on play action last game. So they gave up, I think it was almost like a league leading 15.4 yards on play action plays. The thing is, the Eagles barely used play action in the first game. So I'm intrigued to see, okay, what is Hurts and what's his name? Patullo or Patchouli, whatever the new OC there for the Eagles. I'm curious to see what kind of adjustments they're going to make, because also the Eagles, they were the least explosive team last week. So only 5% of their passes were over 10 yards. So they did not test the ball downfield. If they can adjust, I think this could be a sneaky shootout, and I think the Eagles could walk away with it. but that's a big if the Eagles can do that. If they can, I think either way, Hurts is you're gonna see that continued scrambling. Dude looked young last week. He looked like Hurts from a couple of weeks or a couple of years ago. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes.
Yeah, I don't like the look of this for the Chiefs. Their main wide receivers injured. If you're throwing to Hollywood Brown these days as your main receiver, it's not going to be looking good. Their defense wasn't up to standard. I think this could potentially be a heartbreaking whitewash for Kansas City. The Eagles played well last week, but I don't think they played to their full ability. So I'd be watching out this week. I know, Nick, you said the Chiefs would have had this one circled, but I think so would the Eagles. They'd be like, all right, we've got to show that we are still the dominant team here and that last year's Super Bowl wasn't a fluke, and we're going to show the league that we're the best team in the league.
Absolutely. The betting lines hard to find early in the week for this one. Just sports bet, get your shit together.
Yeah.
The fact that you can't have player props listed for a game that's at 6:30 on a Monday morning at this point in time we're on a Thursday night at the moment. Just what the hell. So, Ladbrokes early week if you want early lines. Obviously you'll be listening to this on a Saturday, but if you ever want early lines, Ladbrokes is where it's at. So right now, you know what? I would be going the Mahomes rushing yards over because it's set at a pitiful 21.5. And as I said, I can see he is going to be doing a lot of running and probably a lot of work himself again this week. So that would probably be my biggest one this week for this game.
Hurts anytime touchdown. So I think he's got a 27% scramble rate, and the way KC plays the zone, they invite a lot of QB runs. So I'm going to say Hurts anytime touchdown. Also going to say Mahomes take the over on the passing yards. That Philly defense, the secondary, is struggling a little bit. They gave up over 300 yards last week. I think Mahomes is just going to air it out this week.
One of my 3 picks I really want to go with, pretty basic, but I am actually taking Kansas City as the home underdog, 1.5. So, you're not really going to get much with the points, but more so, I do think this is a statement game for the Chiefs.
This is not a bet thing, but the Chiefs did play in Brazil. They've still got to travel back, so that may work against the Chiefs as well.
Right, let's move on. We're going to go with our next preview is the Broncos at Colts, 6:05 game. I really wanted to watch this one because I want to see what both of these teams are like in week 2 coming up against each other. The Broncos' offense wasn't that great at times last week. They almost gave up a game to the lowly Titans. They really struggled against their defense. Bo Nix had to sort of make some decisions on the run, but also anytime he seemed to trust his head coach to call plays, they always seemed a little bit weird. He was also pressured an amazing amount. So the Titans almost got one up on the Broncos last week. And if it wasn't from some really boneheaded decisions from Titans coaching, they may have that may have been a little bit different in terms of the tale of that game. Whether they would have got over them, maybe or maybe not. But why do I want to see them up against the Colts? Because we need to know if the 33-8 scoreline the Colts had against the Dolphins is real.
Yes.
The Colts playing that good last week. Daniel Jones playing that good last week. Jonathan Taylor finally back for 70 yards, 18 carries. Michael Pittman having 18 yards. I've been calling it all season. I've been saying the ghost of Michael Pittman Jr. and it just stunned me that he had 80 yards and a touchdown last week. We need to know if this is what the Colts are going to look like. Is this how Steichen's offense has finally come together with a credible passer? So we need to know that. And the Broncos defense was their one shining light last week. So this is why I really wanted to see this game, and I'm really enthused to see how these two teams, basically these two offenses, go against two defenses which could be quite strong.
Yeah, to me, it's you're exactly. I think you hit the narrative exactly right. And this is what everybody's going to be looking at. And that Denver defense just played historically well. And can Indy hold up and continue that? The reality is, especially early in the season, you got a good defense versus you don't know what you have on offense. Was it a really bad Miami, or is Indy that good? It's probably a little combination of both. I'll take defense every time. The one intriguing thing though is I want to see what Bo Nix has, because he was pressured on over half of his dropbacks last week, and he looked brutal. But Indy doesn't pressure. They were the worst at the pressure rate. So if Bo Nix doesn't have a good game this week, that tells me there's something wrong with Bo Nix, or he's really in a sophomore slump. So to me, that's the matchup that I'm looking at. I just want to see how does Nix respond in this game, because they won in spite of Nix last week.
I'll talk about the flip side to that, because I don't know. I don't catch the bluff of Daniel Jones yet. I can't see it yet. Me and Isaac were sort of talking in the green room before we sort of went on air. And one of the things I really like to highlight in week ones is there's two things that you take out of week one matchups with every team. Are they actually better or worse than what you thought? Or is it all a bluff? Like, is it the Saints from last year? Or is it genuinely like, okay, maybe the Eagles are actually better than we thought, or, whoever, right? So there's always a case of that. I think in this case, I don't know, I have to see more of it. The signs were there for me. That game that you're talking about against Miami, for me, more than anything, I think the signs were there that Miami were going to tank this year. And I think a lot of people overlooked it. I know I probably did. Now they've got to compete with, a Denver defense, which, as you said, Brad, was incredible last week, and we expect them to be incredible the whole year. So, how that fares for Daniel Jones, this is a real test for him early in the season. This is a real test as to whether he can actually be that guy that might be able to keep them consistently, as a wild card team, or potentially going further. Or is he going to go back into that pumpkin mode that he was in New York? So we'll find out. But I think it's more so it's a huge test, great defense, but I don't see it yet for the Colts.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Brad on this. Early in the season, I'd rather have a good defense than a really good offense, because defense is going to last. Offense may not last, and the difference I see in the matchup this week is Miami was struggling at cornerback to have someone in that secondary, and Denver have a really good one in Patrick Surtain. They weren't playing anyone at his level, and I think that's going to show this week. And I think the Denver defense is going to squeeze the life out of the Colts.
I got 3 lines that I'm really looking at on this one for my bets.
Let's hear it.
Bo Nix passing yards 225.5 right now, under every day of the week. Daniel Jones passing yards is at 200.5 on Ladbrokes right now, over. Because I think they're going to be mainly a passing first offense, even though they do have Jonathan Taylor. He still catches a lot of balls. There is a lot of passing going his way. The other one, and it's the main one, total match points is set at 42.5. I think that's quite low, considering what these two teams are capable of in scoring, despite those defenses.
Okay.
So I would go over that 42.5 line right now.
I've only got one on this one. I'm taking Daniel Jones rushing yards. I'm taking him on the over, just because I think Denver is they lead the league in pressure. One game they lead the league, but they do, and so I think you're going to see a lot of scrambling from Daniel Jones.
All right, one more games we wanted to watch this week, and it is Brad's pick. It's also true to form to Brad, the lowest predicted current total of all the games. No, Brad, I wasn't going with the obvious line because I haven't got that far yet in the setup. Of all the games this week, this is the lowest by far at 39.5 is the under-over total for this game. It is two teams that Brad has staunchly said he won't go back to, and one that he was tossing up about last week, except for the fact that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. It is Seahawks at Steelers. Brad, I had quite a large giggle when you sent through that this was the pick that you wanted, considering what these two teams are.
It's a Brad Cummings Cup.
Yes.
And it's
It
full,
is.
baby. Let me tell you.
Set us up, Brad. Let's get going because we've still got Monday Night Football on the card.
Yeah, quickly. I think you're exactly right, Ian. I think Vegas had this one right. Steelers are favored by 3 at home. The total's only sitting, like you said, in the high 30s. I think Seattle is only predicted to be their total's like 18 points. So, woohoo, exciting football. But I basically it's a huge slap in the face to Kubiak and to Sam Darnold. But you know what? Their performance in week 1 didn't do them any favors. Seattle, they barely did any play action. They barely did any pre-snap motions. Basically, it was the exact opposite. I don't know if anybody saw them play in their preseason, week 3 preseason. Why am I comparing Seattle's week 3 preseason game? I do not know. Sorry. But it's just... It's just, they didn't look at all like how they looked in the preseason. And Darnold puts up, 150 yards, no scores. And the one thing that concerned me about Seattle, I was so high on all their pre-snap motions and all the exotic stuff that they were doing. I was pretty high on them. Their run game got stuffed 30% of the time.
Yeah.
30% of the time, their runs did not do anything. So, in fact, they went backwards, which you can't win when you're doing that. So, huge disappointment. However, that being said, guess what? Pittsburgh, 30% of their runs got stuffed at the line as well. Pittsburgh's running game did not work. However, Aaron Rodgers, he did. He dude looked like Father Time had not touched him, which kind of pissed us all off. The one interesting stat that I found about this game with Aaron Rodgers, 71% of his yards came from his receivers after the catch. So that tells me he's doing a lot of short passes, a lot of timing, a lot of dink and dunks, which surprised me because he's not known for playing within the system. But I love Arthur Smith's system, and he I think as long as they're winning, he's gonna do all right. I felt like they won because of Arthur Smith and his scheming versus because of Aaron Rodgers and his dynamic play. So
that is a Rodgers calling card, though, is getting the ball out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you're right.
Time to throw for him has always been insanely short.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought last week's game was going to be an ugly game as well, and it turned out to be one of the more exciting ones. So we could have another exciting one on our hands. Not really much input on this game. It'll be an interesting watch for me, but no real feedback from me there.
I think the biggest things about this game are actually all the betting lines, to be honest, because some of them are just so far out because of the reasons Brad mentioned. Pittsburgh scored a ton last week with Rodgers. So do they do that again? Who does he put in the end zone if they are scoring? Because a couple of the guys got off their mark early on that no one thought was going to get scores last week, but they did. Seattle, as Brad mentioned, like no touchdown passes in one rushing touchdown, which was to Zach Charbonnet. And so what happens then? But JSN 124 yards receiving last week. Cooper Kupp only 15, and neither of them got a touchdown. So if you go down into the anytime touchdown scoring rankings right now, JSN is paying $3 for a touchdown. Cooper Kupp $3.40. Charbonnet $3.40. Like, these numbers are crazy, and I think this is the biggest thing about this game right now is actually if you're a bettor, it's Yeah, it's where all the fun is.
If I'm betting on this game, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers on the over for his passing touchdowns. I know Seattle's got a decent secondary, but I think Smith is going to get him in the end zone. They're going to rely on Rodgers in that quick game. So
Yeah.
I think it's 1.5 right now. So he's got to get 2. I'm taking Rodgers on the over.
Aussie.
It might be pretty obvious, but I am not Matty C.
NFL.
Absolutely stoked to have you on the podcast, mate. Welcome.
Fantasy.
Tay, I think it's time you disabused your mate here.
Would you rather be fighting zombies or aliens?
Find hidden gems.
And with that, we're into some breakouts.
I'm glad you're stalling because my results last week were a hot piece of ass.
We all had our struggles, mate.
You've unzipped the pennies and it's time to put the pennies in the pit. Let's do it.
I'm taking Trey McBride.
I'm just leaning on the old tuck shop, tuck draft.
And all of a sudden, he's just lighting them up.
Catch starts of the week.
I'm just going to go ahead and take Goff at Chicago.
So I'm going to go running back. I'm going to take Travis Etienne.
I'm going to go ahead and take your boy Ty Tracy.
I'm going to take Adam Thielen.
So I'm going to go and take Richo against Tennessee.
I'll take Matt Stafford.
Just a little float out the Dalton Kincaid.
I'm actually going to take Caleb against the Lions.
Friday and Sunday all season long. The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Thanks to the Aussie Gridiron Network.
Good to give me the dance floor. I'll probably fucking snap the floorboards.
Righto, Monday night football. A doubleheader, 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Bucks at Texans kickoff. The Bucks coming off a very narrow victory over the Falcons last week, where Baker Mayfield might have thrown for 3 touchdowns, but there wasn't a ton of receiving yards. His attempts was only 17 out of 32. It was quite a lowly game for Mayfield, despite 3 actual touchdowns. Igbuka picked up a second one late in the game, which was fantastic to get them the win over the Falcons, who nearly got the win with Michael Penix Jr. playing so amazingly in that game. The Texans come off a pretty disappointing loss in something that we covered last week on our reactions show. A bit of a smash 'em up game against the Rams, and the Texans came away with a lot of questions from everybody on what that offensive line is like, and can they withstand enough to give CJ Stroud enough time to actually make some plays in the passing game. And old man Nick Chubb with 60 yards on the ground last week was probably one of the bigger standouts of that Houston Texans team. Isaac, how do you see the Texans and Bucks sort of faring down there in Houston this week?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight game, and it's going to have a lot of questions for both teams. So Tampa need to get their run game going. So Bucky Irving, who they touted to have a really good season this year, averaged 2.6 yards per carry last week. That needs to be better.
Oof.
And another one that I think, Brad, you mentioned on the reaction show, the Houston Texans didn't score a touchdown in the game against the Rams. They need to get Nico Collins the ball. So Nico Collins had five targets for 3 receptions for 25 yards. You need to scheme up something to get him open some more. If they do that, I think Houston will go further to winning the game if they can get Nico Collins going.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting just to see how much Tampa Bay can force feed Mike Evans, because they're pretty thin at wide receiver besides him and Igbuka. But how good did Ibuka look? He's the real deal. I think that guy. So I think Tampa Bay is going to be laughing all the way to the bank with him. Just in terms of, I think he is going to produce for them, but they don't got much else. So I'd say, and that O-line for Houston is just atrocious. So like you said, they got to get something going there. If I'm betting on this game, I'm taking Mike Evans on the over. Just sorry, Ian, I'm throwing out my bets already. And then
No, it's all good. All good.
And then I'm taking Dalton Schultz anytime touchdown, because I just think Stroud's going to be so under the gun. He's just going to do outlets to Schultz. So it's assuming they can get down in that red zone.
Yeah, Texans
Nick,
last week they were Texans last week they were pretty much suffocated. And the Rams are sort of, well, if you combine the last, what was it, 5, 6 games of the last regular season, had been really good defensively. So it's not a surprise that it's sort of carried into this season. But the Texans just couldn't get anything going, and that's a lot because of, as we mentioned up front, they just could not get it right. That trade of Laramie Tunsil still puzzles me and puzzles a lot of people, as to why it was done, why they hadn't properly replaced. But defensively, they were still quite good. So one thing that I think that may give the Bucks some troubles this time around, is they may miss Tristan Wirfs a little bit more this week because they've got Will Anderson to come up against. And also Daniil Hunter. I was trying to remember his name. Daniil Hunter on the other side. But yeah, I agree with Isaac. Definitely going to be a tight game. And in terms of what I would have, I think a stat I came across is since the start of last season, the Bucks as a away underdog are 4-1 against the spread, and so they're 2.5 here, plus 2.5 going to Houston. And I would be taking that at the moment, as I think overall, I think Tampa Bay is probably the more complete team. And what Houston will be able to do, will they be able to keep CJ Stroud upright? Will they get Nico Collins involved? We don't really know. So yeah, I'd be taking that for plus 2.5 for the Bucks.
Yeah, cool. I'd be looking. Be remiss of me if I didn't throw out a Baker Mayfield line for a Bucks game. Mayfield passing TDs over 1.5 is actually the longer bet, the over on that one. I'm not going to touch his passing yards this week. The other interesting one, though, is actually just the money line, to be honest. The Texans are favourites in this game by 2.5. So I would be taking the Bucks.
Yeah, so would I.
I'll be taking the Bucks in this one, straight up on the line. All right, the other Monday night football game, Chargers at Raiders. Chargers coming off a amazing win against the Chiefs early on last week. They had I guess you could say, a bit of a fairy tale opener, something that doesn't usually happen in Chargers land, because, as we all say, usually Chargers are going to charger. We've talked a little bit about that already in our Chiefs talk in their game against the Eagles. The Raiders coming off a win against the Patriots 20-13, where Geno Smith passed for 362 yards and a touchdown in his debut as Vegas demolished the Patriots 20-13. Ashton Genty was very, very quiet in that game, and I wonder how much we are going to see, or how much we're going to see of him this week. Brock Bowers news I probably need to chase up, because I haven't heard much in the way of that, and I think that's one of the other big talking points for this particular game. How healthy is Brock Bowers going to be, even if he does run out against the Chargers, because they are going to need him against the Chargers team that played very different to what we would usually see from them, Isaac.
Yeah, they played really well in that season opener. Some of the things that I've got in my notes here is that we are seeing, there was a bit of debate in the offseason who was the number one running back. Was it Hampton or Najee Harris? So that was answered in that game. Hampton got 15 carry opportunities, and Najee Harris got 1. So I think we know who the lead back is there. And just Justin Herbert's line, 25 of 34, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns. Really, really good game. And on terms of Vegas, it's going to be Genty's going to have to play well, and Gino got sacked 4 times too. So Genty didn't perform really well, so that O-line really needs to step up here. Because if Gino's getting sacked and Genty's not playing well, it means that your O-line's playing pretty bad. And again, like you said, Ian, the Brock Bowers injury, that's going to take a lot into consideration into who's going to win the game.
Yeah, I think the long week for him is the crucial part here, is that he's got extra days to get healthier.
Yep.
Boys, any other thoughts on this game?
No, I think you guys hit nailed on the thoughts. I think it's just it's strange that we've got a offensive coordinator Roman and a Harbaugh head coach, and they're just slinging it. You know, usually they just run, but they are just slinging it. And interesting, I heard in the game, the Chargers game, one of the sideline announcers, was quoting Harbaugh saying, you know, it's a travesty if I don't get Herbert into the Hall of Fame, because he realizes the kind of talent that he's got in Herbert. So, you know, a little bit of the shine has come off of Herbert just because he hasn't had any playoff success and what have you. But I love the way they're utilizing. I got to admit, I'm a Herbert homer. But I'm taking him on the passing touchdowns, the over. I just think that they're too good on offense, and that Raiders secondary I think is a little bit suspect. And then I'm taking, I think, what'd we say the spread is? Is it 3.5?
3.5 to the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm taking that all the way every day. Chargers. I'm taking that one.
That's about the only thing I'd want to bet on in this game.
I'm a bit on the flip side. Like I actually think the Chargers last week, it felt like a little bit they're playing their Super Bowl. A little bit in that direction. I don't know. And one thing that I do think into consideration with that, they're coming back from Brazil, so obviously there's a bit of that factored in. But the Raiders, I don't know, last week they looked a lot better against a team that I think everyone sort of thought they'd get sort of a new coach bump, they'd be more aggressive. You know, they actually looked quite solid up front, like they was actually stopping the run quite well, the Raiders. And also that I thought that offensively they looked so much better than what they had been. I think Gino had a bit of a bump in there, and you can see Pete Carroll sort of influence. And I know that Jim Harbaugh said during the week about Justin Herbert, but trust me, he wants to run the ball. Roman wants to run the ball. They'll get Najee Harris involved a lot more this week. And is Quentin Johnson going to be still as good as he was last week? So I don't know. I don't trust that guy either. So we'll see what happens. But
maybe
I
he's
don't
playing
mind
like
the Raiders
Quentin
at that
Jefferson.
3.5.
Nice. So Nick's Debbie Downer today. All right, fair enough. Well,
typical. One of you had to be. All right, so that's 6 match previews for this week. Now, kind of forgot about it a little bit last week because it was just Brad and I. But best bets for 2025. You heard us give out a few bets here and there. Of course, last year we would usually chuck out 3 of each at the end of everything as a separate segment. So, putting it to the boys, are there any other games, any other lines that you would want to bet on anywhere else in the NFL on games we haven't talked about yet? I know that Nick definitely has a couple, so why don't you kick us off, dude?
The Chiefs plus 1.5. So that one I've already got. The other 2 I did have. is actually the Rams at Tennessee. It's actually going the under on the total points. So I think that's set at 41.5. So the other one I did have is actually, this is one I'm pretty much a bit more bullish about. And I had to go to Ladbrokes to find this one. It's one of those that Sportsbet don't have. Again, sort your crap out. It's actually CD Lamb over 6.5.
But we welcome you as a
receptions.
sponsor.
Correct.
Sorry,
CD Lamb over 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah, over 6.5 receptions. He's actually done this 3 of the last 4 times against the Giants. And I think this week it's going to be that sort of statement where Dak will come out, put his faith in CD Lamb. They'll get him open. They'll scheme him up. And more specifically, with that front that the Giants have got, those quick passes as well. So just some easy completions that Lamb will get. So I think that 6.5 is pretty safe as well.
Isaac, I know you're not the betting type, but is there anything else there that
No.
you noticed?
Nah, sorry, not this week. Maybe
Right.
Brad will
I know
bring
you
his
chucked out
typewriter back next week.
I know you chucked out a couple in there anyway. And maybe can we get a betting line on Brad to pick a gap year team before next week?
I'll pick a team, but it's I don't know if I'll be happy about it.
You can't be a Vikings fan. I'm already on.
No, I'll try not to pick any of your guys' teams. Well, there's no way on God's green earth I'd be a 49er fan. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy.
Brad, have you got any other lines that sort of caught your eye?
I got one.
Okay.
I've got one. And I hate saying this, but I am taking the Giants as a dog on this game against the Cowboys. So I just think with that pass rush, they've got an elite pass rush, and if Bland is hurt in the secondary, I just think this could be quote unquote an upset. If you can get them at 6, take it. I think on Sportsbet they were 5.5, but I know originally it was 6. So if you can get them at 6, take the Giants.
Hell yeah. I think I would like to make a theme out of Brad betting against the Cowboys all season too.
It's a 49ers reverse psychology thing, isn't it? Oh, we're so bad.
No, except mine's genuine. I truly, I'm not man-jotting this. Mine's genuine.
I love that. That's become a verb. Boys, most of my bets so far this week have been, if anyone knows me and everyone's listened to the pod before and heard my bets last year, most of them were outlandish. Every week there was a big multi or something nuts that I did. Most of them have been fairly simple and fairly safe. That being said, how would you like to put down $100 and win $7,500?
Yeah, I'd say I'd sign up for that.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Sure.
Let's go on 8-leg multi.
Oh, Jesus.
What? Talk to me.
We got the Rams over the Titans. We got the Lions over the Bears.
Check.
We got the Patriots over the Dolphins.
Yep.
Check.
Okay.
We got the Bengals winning their second in a row in early in the season over the Jags.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I could see it.
We got the Colts over the Broncos.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I knew that'd be contentious.
Oh.
We got the Eagles beating the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got the Bucks beating the Texans.
Yeah.
And we got the Chargers beating the Ravens. 8 legs, 75-57 on Sportsbet right now.
That Broncos one puts you over the top. That's your money maker right there.
And in fact, the lucky power play that we have available to us in our group right now would put us at 91.99.
Oh.
Put it down.
Just a
Sign
cheeky
it up.
dollar.
Steak dinner on you.
So we're going big. So there you go.
Famous $7,000 rests on Daniel Jones.
Hardly, Nick, hardly. Righto. So that's my my ridiculous bet for the week. I might chuck out an 8-leg multi every week just on the money lines, but we'll see.
That sounds good.
Just because.
Just because. Why not? All right. That's G'day Gridiron preview show for this week. We hope you've had some fun listening along. If you want to follow our bets or follow anything else we do, check us out on the socials, linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. You'll also find all the links to all of the podcasts and shows. Our show, the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. As I said, Manjot at Pastry Press NFL on Instagram. One hell of a follow on game day. You will find links to our YouTube if you haven't visited there yet, and please do. You can search Aussie Gridiron Network or G'day Gridiron and find that. Please do follow that, like and follow, comment as well. That helps us get out to new listeners and new audience all the time. So please hit us up. Even if you've listened on Spotify or Apple, jump on YouTube, just chuck a comment on there about what you thought about the show or anything random or dumb we've had to say. That really helps us get out to everybody. It will really help us a lot. So please do that. And apart from that, we hope you enjoy your weekend of football, and we will be back on Wednesday morning with the reaction show and a TNF preview with another new guest. So, till then, see you later.